This video was created with Windows Clipchamp using one of the included AI voices. I've never played around with this stuff before. The video was kind of fun to work on. I had posted a reply on a YouTube video I saw. One of the commentators responded to me asking if I would post some pictures on my drum booth so he could visualize what I was writing about. I have no experience doing videos, but here it goes. The acoustic impact noise of an E-drum kit being played is substantial, way softer than an acoustic kit, but in an apartment or condo living, the clacking of sticks and thumping of the bass pedal is just too loud. For decades, I lived in a house where noise was not an issue and enjoyed playing my acoustic drum set to tunes and headphones. I moved to a condo years ago, and after a while fell for the hype that E-drums would work out in that situation. After purchasing an E-drum set and using it a bit, neighbors even 2 levels below were knocking on my door complaining. Of course, this was a disaster, as I would have to get rid of the kit if I couldn't fix the issue. One might say, why bother, just get rid of the things? Well, I have been playing rock drums since the mid-1960s. I was in some rock bands and was a second-string studio player on a bunch of songwriter demos knocking around Hollywood in the late 60s to mid-70s. Even though I was a solid player, like almost everyone who tried to break out, I failed to make the top tier at any of it. I got very tired with all of it around 1980 and let it go. I greatly miss playing songs in the headphones, and to me it was worth the effort and expense to work it out. I came up with a fully enclosed drum booth design to address sound transmission. The space I had was very tight, so it had to be compact, partially collapsible. 5.5 feet long, 3 feet deep is all I can use for the booth with an expansion when playing. The first thing I experimented with was the platform to see if the thumping into the floor from the bass pedal could be successfully mitigated. I tried the much-touted tennis ball platform idea, which proved to be totally ineffective in my situation, so I did a bunch of research on YouTube. Bass drum pedals on all E-drum kits are a horror for sound transfer through the floor framing, much worse than the sound problem created with the drumsticks hitting pads and rubber cymbals. A high percentage of the complaints from my neighbors were about the bass drum pedal impacts. Condo units next to me could hear the sticks, but only a bit through the walls. It didn't seem that reducing the stick sounds would be that difficult. The pedal thumping was far more challenging, but I believed an effective sound-absorbing platform could be built. I found after experimenting that the platform needed to be a multi-level thing to be reasonably effective in my situation. I started with 5 inches of high-density upholstery foam, a 7/16 OSB layer on top, something similar to what I saw on YouTube, one fellow using a twin-sized foam bed mattress with plywood on top for his platform. In testing, the foam OSB idea was much better than the tennis ball platform design, but still not good enough. Some sound was still being transmitted below. I added an additional OSB layer with inexpensive pillows from Walmart in between as an acoustic break. Considerably better, going in the right direction. I had purchased a sheet of mass-loaded sound attenuation vinyl, so I put that on top, then 2 inches of terry cloth towels. Look up the YouTube show, How to Make Sound Absorbent Panels for $5, on various material effectiveness, and several additional MDF layers. The whole thing ended up over 10 inches high. This is ridiculous, but demonstrates just how difficult it is to actually isolate and absorb the low-frequency thuds. The loft does not have any insulation in the floor, thus amplifies any noise traveling down into the framing. It's the worst possible floor design for trying to cut the sound. My design was what it took to eliminate almost all of those bass drum pedal impacts into the floor area. Given the elevation of the platform, a way is needed to raise up the drum throne. A separate riser platform for the drum throne would be best, but I did not have room for such an extension. To elevate the drum throne, I used 8-inch plastic bed risers. One must place these carefully and not move around too much when playing. No problem so far, I've never flopped off of it. For ventilation, I added a bathroom fan on top, pushing air into the booth. Works fine. The layers need to have no mechanical fasteners. Each level must float to isolate the acoustic signature. Others may find that less isolation levels would work for them, especially if they are on a ground-level concrete floor. After getting the platform to actually do the job, I then began to work on the booth. 2 front panels, a single panel on each side, 3 panels on the roof, one which slides out onto supports when in use. The walls and top are made from 1x3 pine framing, cotton batting insulation, doorskin plywood backs glued and stapled, covered with moving blankets. The walls must not touch the platform or sound will travel down to the floor. Being lightweight was important. I needed to be able to take the thing apart and be able to pick up the component panels myself to move them. I found clamps to hold the sections together on Amazon. If one is not so concerned with weight, then using thicker OSB rear panels would be more effective to cut sound, but much heavier. Another idea would be to use 1x4 framing, gluing 1-inch foam panels to the inside of the doorskin plywood before the batting insulation. For the rear booth panels where the drum throne is placed, I just used foam boards covered with moving blanket covers, adding in an additional 4 layers of those inside. I just hang these off of the ceiling projection, storing them on the sides and room wall. It's good enough, but if one had the room full-framed panels built like the rest of the booth would be better. In the end, I found that this enclosure reduced the additional acoustic footprint, only adding between 10 to 15 decibels over normal ambient room noise of about 40 dBs. This is low enough to contain echoing, thus no significant room amplification in my situation. No complaints have been made by neighbors about sound from using this setup. Hopefully, some variation of this information will be of help to someone needing to reduce noise from e-kits. It is possible to succeed with it.